Hello and welcome to your Passport into Books, an event as part of OpenBooks. My name is Chloe Coles and I'm the author of the Bookshop Girls series. I have the first book here, as well as UK and Export Sales Executive at Bounce Sales and Marketing. Today, I'm delighted to be hosting a conversation with four very talented people from the book industry. But before we get started, let me tell you a bit about OpenBooks. OpenBooks will be bringing you an exciting selection of online events and short videos introducing you to careers in the book industry. It will show you how you could put your interests, passions, and creative skills to work, whether it be art and design, business acumen, or worldwide travel and languages. We'll also be diving deeper into some of the jobs in the book industry you might already know about, such as working as an editor or in areas like marketing and publicity. This panel, Your Passport into Books, is all about how you could put your love of travel, languages, and meeting new people to work in the book industry. We're going to talk about the rights and international roles that you can find in almost every publishing house, as well as how important the international landscape is to literary agents. If you feel inspired by the idea of travelling to new places, making connections with other countries and cultures, or discovering new stories and voices from around the world, then this panel is for you. I'm very pleased to be joined by four people who know all about it, and I'm going to start by asking them each to introduce themselves. So, who'd like to take it away? Roxanne?
Hello, my name is Roxanne. I'm French. I am a mixed race woman, pronouns are she, her. I work at Curtis Brown. I have for the past 12 years. It's a literary agency. And I am a translation rights agent, and I also represent French authors. So my role is a bit twofold, really.
Hello, I'm Aude. I'm a 35-year-old white woman. My pronouns are she and her. I am a bookseller, originally a children's bookseller, and now I'm a shop manager, which means I run a bookshop. I deal with a team of booksellers, and we do day-to-day sales, we do events, we work and live in the bookshop.
Heaven. Next on my screen, I have Gemma.
I'm Gemma McDonough. I am a woman, pronouns she, her. I'm from London, grew up in Holloway. I live and work in London at the Marsh Agency, which I joined in 2010. We specialise in international rights, selling English language books around the world. And I also work with some of our clients on UK rights as well. So it's a very global job.
Hello, everyone. It's really nice to meet you all. And I'm really excited to be part of this great initiative, OpenBooks. My name is Sanhee Jin. I am a South Korean and I am a woman. So my preferable pronouns is she, her. And I grew up in South Korea, studied there, and I also studied in China, worked there, and I finally moved to UK and working for a publisher called DK. I'm a senior sales manager at DK, responsible for DK's content licensing business, selling worldwide, except a few key languages. So meaning that my daily work life involves a lot of new business opportunity research, trying to connect with people from different cultures and territories.
Great, thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you all and to be here together. I know that personally for me, my career in the book industry started when I was a teenager. So my first job was at 16, was being a Saturday sales assistant in Waterstones. And I continued to work in bookshops throughout college and university and after I graduated. But that whole time, I didn't really know about the passport into books. I didn't even know that the job I do now existed. And so I'm really interested to hear about how you guys got into your current roles. Did you always know that you wanted to do this kind of thing? And yeah, what was your sort of path? So maybe let's start with Roxanne.
This is so interesting. I'm really excited to hear everyone's responses. I I suspect it's a case of everyone here, have always been a very avid reader of just everything, mangas, sci-fi, fantasy, everything. Like I would read, me and my brother would read a lot of fantasy, but not just that. But I had no idea that there were all these books out there, but I had no idea there were actually roles and that there were jobs like that you could actually work in the book industry, that it was a thing. So I went to uni and I did a first master's degree, still had no idea what I wanted to do. I studied English. I was in France. And it's only when a friend of one of my English teachers, and her name is Karen Geary, and she worked at Hodder. She was the head of publicity for a long, long time. And she came to my little university in France and gave a talk. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. And so I went to find her at the end. I was so incredibly nervous. And I said, Miss Geary, do you take interns? And she was like, yes, of course we do. Why don't you reach out to me in the new year and then we'll figure something out? And so that's how it started. So I was already like in my 20s at that point. I had no idea what I wanted to do. Went like just to study English because I thought, well, at least I have like an added language that can help me for other things, but then eventually I'll have to specialize in something. Knew I didn't want to be a teacher. So then when that opened up, I was like, oh, wow. Working in the book industry in London, this is what I want to do. So that's how it started.
That's so cool. And so it was all somebody there inspiring you, which
Absolutely
opened this door to you. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And Gemma, you're at the Marsh agency. How did that come about?
Well, I'll take you right back, like Roxanne. I always loved reading as a child, and like I said, I grew up in London, and I used to do this thing. Funny thing I used to do as a kid. I used to write books when I was 5. Like I'd write them, I'd illustrate them, and in our local supermarket had like a spinner with kids' books that you could buy, like Ladybird books. Do you remember those? And I used to put my own books on the spinner and then go into a corner and see if anyone would pick them up.
That's amazing. So you're a natural. You've been doing this your whole life.
I mean, well, so I quickly pivoted. I realized, maybe I don't want to be an author, but I love books. And I remember as a kid, when I was about 11, I read Jane Eyre. And there was something that just like pinged in my head, that book. I just felt so seen by this character 100 odd years ago, and her experience really resonated with me, even though I couldn't articulate it at the time. I just knew there was something about that I wanted to pursue. So, I went to university and I studied English and film there. And I remember getting to my last year, and I went to uni in London as well, so I could be close to home. And I got to my last year and I thought, okay, well, what do you want to do? What's the point of all this? Why have you come here? And I thought, I love books, so I should work in books. And I went and found a big A4 binder that was in the library, and it had work experience placements. And I think I just went through it and I found this publishing house called Orion, and it said, we offer 2-week work experience placements. So I emailed and I did my little placement for 2 weeks in the publicity department. And then while I was there, another intern was leaving in the editorial department, and she mentioned it to me. And I just thought, oh, well, hang on, I could do this for longer. And they wanted someone 1 day a week. And obviously, because I was studying in London, I could then commute into the office. So I started to work in the editorial department, reading their submissions, so all the books that came in. It was an absolute dream for me. And then when it came to graduation, I said to them, is there a job? And there wasn't one, unfortunately. But the person I was working for, Sarah O'Keefe, who is now an agent, she was an editor then, she recommended me for a job in a literary agency, working for a woman called Jane Gregory as her personal assistant. And so I started working for her, and that's when I found out about the world of rights. So Jane's previous experience had been working in translation rights and international rights, and she trained me in how to read a contract, and then she trained me in how to sell my first rights, which were audio rights. So I sold unabridged audio rights for Val McDermid's The Grave Tattoo. I think that was my first deal way back when. And then it just sparked something in me, and I loved it. I loved the idea that I could meet people from all around the world and, you know, travel and find out what they like. And so there I ended up in the job I'm in now.
That is so cool. And actually, it's made me think it would be great if you could just explain to our audience what you mean when you say rights.
So basically, that is a thing. So I came into that job as an assistant, and I didn't know what the world of rights was at all. So basically, you get you sell a book in the English language. So a primary agent or publisher would have a book in the English language, and then we can, in international rights, in an agency, Roxanne will do the same thing. We get the opportunity to meet publishers from different countries and tell them about this book, and maybe they want to have this book translated and published in their own country. So that's our job, is to have these meetings into the countries we sell into and tell them about our favourite books that we represent, and hopefully they will want to buy those rights and print their own editions in a different language.
It's very cool, very cool. And so Sunhee, you're working selling books around the world. Did you always want to work with books, or did you come at it from a slightly different path?
I was one of those people who hadn't known well what I wanted to do until I actually was at uni, but I knew that I had been always interested in languages. So in my secondary school, I studied a bit of French. Don't ask me any. A bit of French, a bit of Japanese. And then I have been always interested in Chinese culture. So, okay, I know I love languages. So why don't I go and study Chinese? And I thought that would open a lot of doors for me, whether it be trade, whether it be being a translator. So without knowing what I really wanted to, I just went for my love for the language, and I really loved it. And after finishing my study, I thought, okay, I know that I love China, Chinese culture, Chinese people. So why don't I go to China to study to start my career there? And luckily there was an offer for me. It was a small fashion manufacturer selling imitation fashion costume jewelries to the UK and US high street stores. And I enjoyed meeting people there within the company, and also meeting buyers and customers coming from all around the world as well. And I started my career there, and then I moved to UK, working for a UK-based supplier, supplying to UK high street stores. And I enjoyed what I did, meaning the international sales, getting involved with people from different cultures, speaking my own language as well as some other languages. But I started to feel like, oh, maybe I want to find some more within what I do. What I mean by that is that because this was fast fashion industry, I see a lot of completed finished products being produced and easily and quickly consumed and abandoned. And I was feeling slightly frustrated. So I thought, okay, I really want to find some more purpose in what I do. So I was looking for a job within cultural and publishing industry. And this great opportunity within the UK for a position for Korean and Chinese speaking rights assistants came up. And I thought, like, wow, that is for me. And I would still remember the first time I visited the DK office then for my interview. I could instantly feel that the people work here really do love what they do and really passionate about what they do. And I love the feeling of walking past bookshelves full of amazing books, and this, the smell of old books and new books. And instantly I instantly fell in love with DK and the the book industry. And I'm really happy that I made that choice, because I had this career change in the middle of my career. So I was already in my 30s when I first started my very first book industry career. And since then, I have no regret. I'm really enjoying working in the book industry, and I'm sure that I will retire from this industry.
That's great. Yeah. And yeah, it's so nice to make a change, but it's something you feel suits you perfectly. Sounds like that job you saw was made for you and it was just the right time. It's very, very cool.
Indeed.
And so, Odd, tell us about the Nomad bookshop, and tell us about how you got there. And
Yeah, interestingly, I come from a town of bookshops and publishers, but bookshops were never really on my radar when I was a little girl. I was a big reader, but I was mainly using libraries or buying my books secondhand in flea markets, things like that. So I had books in bookshops in the background, but I decided to do a BA in English at university. Something I didn't say at the beginning is, just like Roxanne, I'm French. I did a year of an exchange program in Newcastle, and I started volunteering in an Amnesty International bookshop. The person running the shop was actually a former bookseller, very, very experienced. So he gave me a lot of training, and I think he made me realize that I didn't really want to be a teacher, and that I would better off working in books. I would be better off working in books. When I, at the end of the exchange year, I went back to France, and instead of finishing my BA, I went to one of my local bookshops in my local towns, and I asked whether they had job opportunities, and they did, because Christmas was coming up, which is the best time to look for a job in bookselling, just so you know. And I ended up spending my year there. And I finished the BA in English, and we're very lucky in France because booksellers are quite rock starry. It's a very revered profession. You can basically do everything from a professional degree, a very small degree, 6 months of training, to basically get a PhD in bookselling if you wanted. So I ended up doing a master's in bookselling. At the end of that, I found a job in Paris, and London was always calling, the UK, Canada. I knew I wanted to travel, so I was keeping an eye out for jobs elsewhere. And a job at a French bookshop in London came up. I applied, I got the job, and then, spent quite a few years there. The owners retired, so I had to find another job, and Nomad was 10 minutes, 15 minutes down the road from that bookshop. I went there, asked if they were looking for a bookseller, and they were. So it all started from there. And I've been at Nomad for 7 or 8 years now. I was promoted as a manager after a couple of years, and this is my current position, but I'm very happy in as just a bookseller anywhere. I think being a bookseller, being a manager, yeah, there's a step up, but being a bookseller is also very gratifying.
It's a lovely job. Yeah, a very lovely job. And so I wanted to ask you, Odd, about how much travel is involved in your job with Nomad.
We travel all over London, that we do, because we do events everywhere. There's the life in the bookshop, but there's also the life outside the bookshop, which is how we manage to make extra money, because working in a bookshop can be tough because you rely on people walking through your doors. And sometimes it's good to show people that books go everywhere and you can find them anywhere. So we do travel across London. We do partnerships sometimes with theatres across the UK. It doesn't mean that we go there, because sometimes it's as far as Birmingham, which is a bit far for just one event, one evening, but it means we liaise with them and we organise everything with them. As far as internationally is concerned, well, not really with Nomad, but there are loads of book fairs across the world, which are wonderful opportunities to meet people, meet authors, meet people who work in the book world. And for booksellers, there's also the Booksellers Exchange Program, which is a lovely European initiative organized by RISE. And it means that if you are interested, you can apply. And for instance, I'll get the opportunity to go to Sweden this year and spend a few days in the bookshop there.
That is so cool. I never knew about that. And that's going to be such an adventure going to Sweden. Bookshops are beautiful there, so I'm sure. I can't wait to hear all about that. Roxanne, could you tell us a bit about the travelling you do? What are some of your favourite places that you've been to meet people and for work?
Sure. I mean, the big for agents and also for anyone who works in rights, either in an agency or at a publisher's, there are 2 big book fairs, 3 if you work in children. So the main children's book fair is in Bologna, and that's in about a month's time. It's in Italy, which is just fantastic. I think it's worth working in children's publishing just in order to get to go to Bologna. Then there's the London Book Fair, so less traveling involved here, but we have lots of people coming over. And then there's the Frankfurt Book Fair, which is generally around October. So those are kind of like the main points. And I arrange my year and all my traveling around those. And then I have young children at the moment, so I'm doing a lot less traveling than I did in the past. But because I'm an agent and I represent French authors, I go to Paris quite a bit. So I was there last year in December. There's the Montreuil Children's Book Fair, which is a little bit outside Paris, which is lovely and really, really fun. But then, you know, I've been, when I was pregnant with my daughter, I went to the Seoul Book Fair in Korea, which was absolutely amazing. And we were part of, you know, a fellowship. It was great. It was, I think, probably one of the best trips I did. I have 2 colleagues at the moment who are in Germany. I also have colleagues who went to Scandinavia last year, another who went to Portugal, went to Spain. So, you know, there is a lot. There are various book fairs like in every single country. There are lots of also just fellowships. So you can be like, your trip can be partly sponsored. There's lots of things like once you are in the industry that are available to you. So yes, there's a fair bit of traveling.
The best bit, I think.
Sure.
Shiny jewel. Gemma, is it the same for you as well? What's been one of your favourite places that you've been able to travel to with the Marsh Agency?
I've got to say New York. It's always a favourite. So we're lucky because we have we work on behalf of other agencies and publishers, like selling their translation rights. So if they're a small agency or publishing house and maybe they don't have the capacity to have someone who works in translation rights specifically for their list, they work with us and we sell their books on their behalf. And it's really fun because it means that we have a really wide-ranging list on behalf of all these different clients. And some of the clients we have are based in the US. So we try and go over there and see our clients. Before the pandemic, it was a lot more frequent, but actually in a couple of weeks, we're doing our first trip to New York since the pandemic. And obviously it being New York, that's a big reason that I like it. But aside from that, it's I love meeting the publishers there and our clients there to find out, you know, what they've got coming up, what they're interested in, what people are buying there. And there's also another role which we work with quite closely in the world of rights. There's a book scout, literary scouts, and they have a really unique position in our industry where they work on behalf of publishers in different countries to be able to tell their clients about what books are coming and what books they should be buying. So they sort of help us be able to reach that network very quickly. And so I really enjoy going to New York to see the American book scouts to find out, you know, what projects they're really excited about and making sure that they know about our books and so that they can be paying attention to those and telling their clients about those. I also sell French rights, so I go to Paris a couple of times a year, which I love. And I'm going to get in trouble for Roxanne and Ord here, but I don't speak French. Terrible. But you know, I just wanted to flag, you know, I know it can be a bit intimidating from the outside translation rights. You think maybe you've got to have loads of languages. Actually, I don't speak any languages. I speak a little bit of GCSE Spanish, which I just about managed to get through. And so, you know, it's restaurant level. But, you know, it's about meeting people and about connecting with people, you know, yourself, you know, who you are. And obviously it's you're all talking about books, which, you know, we tend to love. So you can do that.
I think that's a really useful nugget of advice, actually, and something I found as well. I did study French at A-level, and I did a bit of German at school. But a lot of the traveling I've been doing around Europe, I'm not fluent in Swedish or in Norwegian or Spanish, but it's kind of about turning up and, like you say, meeting people, and that shared love of books. I think it's really, really beautiful how it can bring people together. And so, Sunhee, I wanted to ask you about some of the differences from different countries and different territories. What are some of the surprising things that you have discovered about selling books in different areas?
I think for me, the surprise was that the sort of books that different types of books are being loved by different cultures and territories. So for instance, for DK, when you think of Nordic countries, they're all about hobbies, gardening, well-being, etc. But when we go towards to Asian countries, they're a bit more education, more reference. So you can actually see the quite distinguishable differences in terms of what kind of books they love to read, but they all share, of course, their love for books. And that's something that I noticed quite different from one culture or one country to another. But through the trips, international trips or book fairs, like Roxanne and Gemma mentioned, I get to meet all these different publishers or booksellers from all over the world. But one thing that they share all is the love for the books and the industry, the business they are involved in, whatever they do, whether it be editor or bookseller or designer or salesperson like myself, they genuinely do love what they do. And it's incredible.
It's lovely, isn't it? I think yeah, book world is a nice world to be in, and we're very lucky to be part of it. So I'd love to ask you what advice you would have to young people that are hoping to break into book world, who are looking to start their career in the book industry. What would be your top tip, Roxanne?
It's such, as you say, like such a wonderful industry to work in. I know it can get very competitive though when looking for internships, and sometimes we get like applications and like they've already done like so many internships and they're like qualified and they should really be, you know, applying for a job. But I would say like everyone's going to start somewhere, so like persevere. It can be hard, but I don't know if it's harder than any other industry, having not really worked in any other industry, but I would say persevere definitely. And I also think what I would say is once you have like, once you're in, to also not hesitate to, you know, kind of have that, you know, entrepreneurship state of mind, because I think my role as it is did not exist before, you know, I was like a few years in, and it probably wouldn't exist. It's just that I had these skills, I had the languages, I had the drive, and then, you know, now it's completely shifted, but it's not something that was there and that I applied for initially. So I would say, yeah, persevere, and then, you know, don't hesitate to take initiative.
That's great advice. Thank you. Ord, could you tell us what sort of things you're looking for when you're hiring new members of staff for Nomad?
People think that book selling is all about reading books and that we read all the time. That's absolutely not true. You could almost work in book selling without reading any books. Almost. But I don't want it to discourage people think they don't read enough. You've got to like books, but if you are enthusiastic, if you've got a keen eye for displays, if you like being part of a team, if you like to be a multitasker because you'll be doing different things, you know, one day you can be reading to children, the next you can be running an event in a school, in a library, the next you'll just be a sales assistant focusing on customers. So there's always something new to do. So yeah, enthusiasm, a passion for learning, because new skills can always be learned. There's always margin for progression, for improvement. So yeah, somebody who wants to be part of something nice. That's what we're looking for.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And Gemma, do you have any words of wisdom that you'd like to pass on to our audience?
Oh, wow, no pressure. I would say if I was talking to 18-year-old me, I would say, don't limit yourself. Like, be curious. You know, if you want to work in the book industry and you don't maybe understand the description about the job, if it is about translation rights or about international sales and you think, oh, well, I don't know what that is, you know, be open to it, because I would never have expected to work in the role that I'm working in. And I love it. And it actually fits my, you know, my sort of skill set perfectly. And I wouldn't have known that from the get-go. I just thought I wanted to, like Ord said, you know, sit around reading books all day, or, you know, occasionally like talking about them. And actually I get to work in a job where I travel and I meet people. And when I read a book and connect with it, I can think about someone in another country and think, well, this is perfect for them. And then for them to read that and feel the same way as I do, you know, it's opened me up to a world of potential that I never thought possible. So I would say, yeah, don't limit yourself, and also don't listen to that imposter syndrome. You know, you're meant to be here. And just bring yourself, be authentic. You know, you don't need to be a different kind of person to sell or to talk about books. You know, just do you. That's the best thing you can do.
That is lovely. Thank you so much. Sunhee, have you got any advice as well that you'd like to pass on?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna echo what Gemma says. Don't limit yourself. And I understand some young friends think that publishing is for certain group of people only who are coming from certain background. But guys, look at me. I'm not from here. I didn't know anyone within the publishing industry before actually I started my career in publishing. So as long as you believe in what you do and you know you have passion for books, then there will be always doors for you. And when I travel to foreign countries, when I find a DK book, whether it be a translated foreign edition or English edition, I always get this tingly sensation in my heart, because I strongly believe that books can shape and change people's life. And if you do believe in that, don't limit yourself and try and find out what's there for you.
That's so cool. Thank you, everybody. I think that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much to our brilliant panelists for giving us a great insight into the book industry. If you'd like to find out more about careers in the book industry, make sure you check out more of the OpenBooks online events and videos. They're all on the website. It's publishers.org.uk/OpenBooks, or you can search for #OpenBooks.